Once upon a time, in a small village nestled between rolling hills and a sparkling lake lived a kind-hearted woman named Margaret. Margaret was known throughout the village for her warm smile, her infectious laughter, and most especially for her heart of gold. She had a particular fondness for animals and would often be seen walking around the village with a rescued stray by her side. One breezy afternoon, while Margaret was strolling through the town square, she noticed something unusual. As soon as she opened the door to her cozy cottage, the kitten's eyes widened in amazement. They had never seen so much love and care in one place before. Margaret placed them down gently and watched as they began to explore their new surroundings. Each kitten had a distinct personality. There was Snowball, the fluffiest of the bunch with a white coat as pure as snow. Then there was Patches, a calico cat with unique markings that reminded Margaret of a patchwork quilt. Next was Tiger, a sleek and energetic tabby cat who loved to chase his tail. And lastly, there was Smokey, a gray kitten with emerald green eyes that shone like precious gems. Margaret spent the next few weeks showering the kittens with love, care, and most importantly, food. She made sure they were well nourished so they could grow into happy and healthy cats. As the kittens grew older, they began to explore beyond the walls of Margaret's cottage. They chased butterflies in the meadow, climbed trees with ease, and played hide-and-seek amongst the bushes. Their days were filled with joy and wonder, and they couldn't wait to see what each new day would bring. One sunny afternoon, while the kittens were playing in the garden, they stumbled upon an old, rusty swing set. It had been abandoned for years, but the kittens didn't know that. They thought it would be fun to play on the swings, and so they started pushing each other on the swings, taking turns and giggling all the while. Suddenly, Tiger, the tabby cat, had an idea. He stopped pushing his friends and instead jumped off the swing. He then dashed over to the nearby bushes and emerged with a small stick in his mouth. He dropped the stick at the foot of the swing and proudly meowed as if to say, "Look what I found." The other kittens understood exactly what he wanted them to do. He pushed the swing even harder, and soon they were all swinging high above the ground, batting the stick back and forth like it was a game of indoor tennis. The kittens played on the swing set until the sun began to set, painting the sky in hues of orange, pink, and purple. As they sat on the swings, watching the sunset, they couldn't help but feel a sense of contentment. They had each other, they had Margaret's love, and they had the entire world to explore. But little did they know that their idyllic life was about to change in ways they never imagined. One morning, Margaret woke up feeling under the weather. She had a terrible headache and a fever, and she knew she wouldn't be able to leave the house. Dear, she thought, who will take care of my precious kittens? She didn't have anyone else in mind. She called for her friend, Mrs. Willoughby, who was known for her healing remedies and soothing presence. Mrs. Willoughby arrived promptly, and after hearing about Margaret's illness, she offered to look after the kittens for the time being. "Don't worry, Margaret," she said with a warm smile. "I'll make sure those little ones are well taken care of." Margaret felt reassured by her friend's kindness, and so she went back to bed, hoping for a speedy recovery. In the meantime, Mrs. Willoughby settled in and got to work. She prepared a nutritious breakfast for the kittens, and as they ate, she told them stories about her pet rabbits and chickens. The kittens listened attentively, their tails twitching with amusement. After breakfast, she played with them, chasing them around the room and tickling them with a feather duster. The kittens were delighted. They'd never had so much fun before. As the day wore on, however, they started to miss Margaret. They could sense that something was different, and they couldn't understand why she wasn't around. Just then, Mrs. Willoughby noticed their sad expressions and knew she had to do something to cheer them up. She picked them up one by one and cradled them close. "Don't worry," she whispered. "Margaret will be back soon." The kittens seemed to understand her words, and they purred contentedly as she stroked their fur. Mrs. Willoughby promised herself that she would do everything she could to make Margaret's kittens feel loved and cared for, even if it meant putting her own plans on hold. Meanwhile, Margaret was slowly recovering from her illness. She could still feel the fever lingering in her bones, but she was determined to get better as soon as possible. She didn't want to let her kittens down. As the days passed, Margaret's health improved, and she was finally well enough to get out of bed. She took it slow, though, because she didn't want to overdo it. First, she sat by the window, enjoying the fresh air and the sound of birds singing. Then she went out into the garden, where she spent hours tending to her flowers and herbs. All the while, she couldn't help but think about her kittens and how much she missed them. Finally, she felt ready to visit her beloved cats. She walked towards their favorite spot in the garden, and when she saw them playing, her heart skipped a beat. It was the most beautiful sight she could imagine. She stood there watching them, unable to speak, as tears of joy streamed down her face. The kittens, sensing her presence, stopped their game and turned towards her. When they saw Margaret, they ran towards her, meowing excitedly, scooped them up and hugged them tight. She could feel their tiny bodies vibrating against her, and she whispered, "I've missed you so much." The kittens purred louder, and it sounded like music to Margaret's ears. She had never been so happy to see her kittens, and she knew that nothing in the world was more precious than their unconditional love.
Margaret?
From that day forward, Margaret made sure to cherish every moment with her kittens. She took them on long walks, played with them every day, and gave them endless amounts of love and affection. The kittens, in return, showered her with purrs and head bumps, and they became the best of friends. As the years passed, the kittens grew into beautiful cats, but they never forgot the love and care that Margaret had given them. They knew that she had saved them from a life on the streets, and they were grateful for every day they got to spend with her. Whenever Margaret felt sad or lonely, she only had to look at her cats, and her heart would fill with joy. She knew that she had found her purpose in life. It was to give love to those who needed it the most, whether they had 2 legs or 4.